Before we look at our two problems that we have today, I would like to look at two numbers, one of which is defined and the other one is undefined. And the two numbers I'm going to write down are 0 over 2, or 0's in the numerator, 2's in the denominator. And the other number that I'm going to write down is 5 and over 0. Now, which one of these two is defined and which one is undefined? Well, you probably know, but sometimes under the pressure of taking a test, you might get confused and you might forget which one is defined and which one's undefined. You might think, what is it? Is it that you cannot divide 2 into 0, or is it that you cannot divide 0 into 5? You may get confused. What I suggest is that you write down a number in fraction form, something that you know very well. For example, 6 over 3, or 6 divided by 3. And then rather than just thinking, well, let's see, 6 divided by 3 is 2, think in terms of this. What number could you multiply 3 by to get 6? What number could you multiply 3 by to get 6? And the answer to that question is 2. And then that is what 6 divided by 3 is. It's the same thing as what you can multiply 3 by to get 6. It's 2. Now let's apply that to these, and I think we'll be able to determine which one's defined and which one's undefined. What number can I multiply 2 by to get 0? What number can I multiply 2 by to get 0? Well, I can think of a number that I can multiply 2 by to get 0, and that's 0, because 0 times 2 is 0. So that is defined. 0 divided by 2 is 0. But now let's move over to this one. We have 5 divided by 0. So what number can I multiply 0 by to get 5? Well, you might think, well, how about 5? Well, 5 times 0 is 0, so that doesn't work. And you can think and think and think, but there isn't any number that you can think of that you can multiply 0 by and get 5. So this is the one that's undefined. 5 divided by 0 is undefined. Now, keeping that in mind, let's move on to our problem. And our problem, we have two problems down here with the same directions. It says find any values of x for which the rational expression is undefined, or state that it is defined for all real numbers. Okay, so in problem number 5 we have 5 divided by, or 5 in the numerator, and 2x in the denominator. And what would make that undefined? Well, back up here we actually had 5 in the numerator and 0 in the denominator, and that's what made this undefined, having 0 in the denominator. So if we have 2x in the denominator, this will be undefined. I'm sorry, if we have, did I say that right? If we have 0 in the denominator here, this will be undefined. And so what would make the denominator 0? Well, we have 2x equals 0. And so what value of x would make that 0? Well, you could divide both sides by 2, and you'll have then x equals, and as we talked about up here, 0 divided by 2, that's something, that's equal to 0. So we have x equals 0. And so if x equals 0, then this rational expression is undefined. And let's just check. 2 times 0 is 0. 5 divided by 0, we already said is undefined. So sure enough, x equals 0. is the value for x, which makes that expression undefined. Moving over to this next problem, we have a trinomial in the denominator. It's x squared plus 4x minus 5. So if that is equal to 0, then this expression will be undefined. So if x squared plus 4x minus 5 equals 0, x squared plus 4x minus 5 equals 0, then we'll have an undefined expression here. What we need to do here is factor. So let's factor this. And we'll have an x here and an x here. And we need to think of two numbers that when you multiply them you get negative 5. Well, let's see, 1 times negative 5 would work, and also negative 1 times 5. Those are the only two combinations I can think of that would give us negative 5 using integer values. And which one of these two adds up to give us 4? Well, 1 minus 5 gives us negative 4, so it's not that one. And negative 1 plus 5 gives us a positive 4, so that's the combination we want right here. So let's just change colors again. So let's put in a negative 1 and a positive 5. And just to check and make sure that if we multiply these two things together, these two binomials together, that we do get this trinomial. Let's FOIL it, and maybe let's just write it up here. So x times x is x squared. So far so good. And the outside is x times plus 5. That would be x times 5, or plus 5x. And then if we multiply the inside, we get negative 1 times x, and negative 1 times x is negative 1x. And then finally, multiplying the last, we get negative 1 times 5, that's negative 5. And sure enough, if you take a look at this and combine these two terms, which you can, they're like terms, 5x minus 1x is 4x. So this was the proper factorization of x squared plus 5x minus 5. Now if you remember, the zero product principle states that if you have two factors that multiply to give you 0, then either the x minus 1 must be equal to 0. I don't need this parentheses. Either x minus 1 equals 0, or x plus 5 equals 0. Which makes sense that if you have, say if this one was 0, 0 times whatever this second factor is would give you 0, and vice versa. So either x minus 1 equals 0 or x plus 5 equals 0. And solving this, just adding 1 to both sides, we get x equals 1 here. And adding a negative 5 to both sides on this other one, we get x minus 5 over here. And sure enough, those two answers should be those two values for x. Oops, I need an equal sign in there. X equals negative 5. Those two values for x will make this undefined. And just to see really quickly, if we square 1, that's 1, plus 4 times 1, that's, let's see, 1 plus 4 is 5, 5 minus 5 is 0. Sure enough, that makes this undefined. Also, if we take negative 5 and square that, negative 5 squared is positive 25, plus 4 times negative 5 is negative 20, minus 5, let's see, we've got 25, minus 20, that's 5, minus 5, that also makes it, this expression, denominator equal to 0, and therefore undefined. So that's it for this time. See you next time.